Something you want to do with your students is you want to do an emotions check-in, and you don't want to skip this. I know that seems like, oh, well, how do I do that? What if I have a large class? How do I do an emotions check-in? Do I need to ask the why? I got you. You ready? Let's go. There are so many resources online that you can use. Now, I like to print things off the internet and give people credit, and I have a lot of emotion wheels that I printed to support my students in naming their emotions. Simply naming them is a great way for the child to be aware of where they are. As the educators, as coaches, as parents, we don't have to get into the why. Sometimes going into the why will take them downstairs, okay? Now, I want to share this with you. This is something I created, okay? I love to create things. You know, I create learning materials. I created the Amazing Me activity book, and we're, still in the launching phase of that, so it's getting into more hands slowly but surely. But I created this document, and I laminated it, okay, with my handy dandy laminator. And if you're wondering, you say, well, Ashley, where'd you create that? On Canva. I really like Canva, okay? And so this is adapted from Dr. Dan Siegel's Science of the Brain. But anyone who studies the science, the neuroscience agrees that there are different areas of the brain, and we want to support kids in developing their skills so they have integrated minds. Now, today I use this chart, and I'm pulling it out more because I'm recognizing that kids need to know where they are, and teaching them simple anatomy helps them to be more aware of themselves, okay? So when we're talking about finances today, and I'm not a financial advisor, but I want them to know some money basics. I said a lot of people are down here when we talk about finances, because most of them, who are feeling this may have a financially tight situation. And one of the kids asked me, well, how do you know? I said, because I've been one of those adults. I am one of those adults with debts and, payments and bills and all that stuff, okay? But give thanks, I'm able to earn so I can not only have money to spend, but pay down my debts and save, okay? And so I warned them as well that when I feel like my eyebrows are about to fall off, because that's how I like to say things a different way. Like, sometimes we say the same thing to kids, and this kind of gets repetitive, right? We got to catch their attention, and I'm really big on grabbing people's attention or capturing their attention, because attention span is limited, okay, and attention is very important. And so I say, I feel like my eyebrows are going to fall off. Not my head's going to pop off, but my eyebrows are about to fall off, okay? And then they're like, oh, and they smile a little bit, but they know when I say my eyebrows are about to fall off, I am downstairs. And then one of my students said, well, when you're first you're here, and then you're here, and then you're here, and then you're here. And I said, you know what? That's true. And I didn't get into it in the moment, but that's the emotional range of motion. He's 8 years old. He's able to recognize that. Okay? Now, I know I'm saying a lot, but here's the thing. I want to recap. You want to have something that kids can use to identify their emotions, because they're coming in with some really great emotions, and some may not be as great. They may be intense, they may be unpleasant, uncomfortable for you, they may be comfortable for them. I'm going to get into that in a moment. But you want to have something visual, because we process visual information, I've heard, up to 10 times faster than written. So then I have the kids say, well, they tell me where they are, and they pointed here and here and here and here and all over. Okay, and I said, so during this conversation, because I only have them for a brief amount of time, and this is in my math workshop, so we want you to be up here. So all of them identified being in the upstairs brain. There were a few emotions that were downstairs, but they were able to move upstairs, okay? Now, how do we know when kids are moving upstairs? They're feeling love, they're feeling playful, they're feeling relaxed. And one thing I say with my kids is, even when you're happy, you still need to listen. Even when you're excited, you still need to listen. Even when you're feeling bouncy, you still need to listen. When we talk about boundaries and expectations, and these are developmental assets, check out the research on developmental assets. I recently discovered this body of research, and I'm like, oh, this is so exciting to put words to what we've been doing for a long time, right? Constructive use of time is one of those assets. But being able to name it as a developmental asset. So boundaries and expectations, that's one of them. And when we say, okay, when you hear your friend say stop, that means the game is over. They're no longer playing, right? It's not funny anymore. And this is really important, because what happens is, and I noticed this week, is that people are having a good time. They're feeling good. They can't hear you. Oh no, stop. Now, when they're older and maybe there's some substances involved, or like maybe they had a little more caffeine, they've had a little more sugar, right? We'll just go with sugar, okay? Bouncy. The kids, you give them a little bit, right? And then you say, okay, even when you're excited, you still need to listen. Even when you're happy, you still need to follow directions. Even when you're blank, you still need to blank. Okay, so that's the sentence structure. That's the frame that we're using with the language. Even when you're this, you need to do this. Okay, now with the older kids, maybe it's like a year or two older, some are 4 years older, okay, or 4 years apart. I printed this offline, and I want to give credit to humansystems.co. They put their information on there, and this is really cool because on one half we have labeled uncomfortable emotions, and on the other side we have comfortable emotions. Okay, now there are a lot of emotion wheels online, wonderful demonstrations or visual representations. Okay, have a different variety. I have a different variety so my kids can be like, oh, I didn't see this one. Oh, this is new. Novelty is really good for the learning brain. Novelty, something that's new, is going to spark their attention. So you want to have something new, and then them being able to identify. And so many of them, it's a small group, but they identified very uplifting emotions. Very uplifting, okay? Now, this is the interesting thing. This is broken into comfortable and uncomfortable emotions. So there's different ways to categorize. You can say uncomfortable and comfortable. You can say pleasant and unpleasant. You can say sunny and cloudy. I use sunny and cloudy. But some kids feel comfortable with the uncomfortable emotions. And one of my students today said, I like these emotions. And I said to him, okay, be careful about liking those emotions, because you're going to attract some people who like those emotions too. You may get some people that you really don't, and you may lose some people you enjoy, right? And he's 11, so I have to talk to him that way so he can understand. When we are doing our emotions check-in, don't go into the why, because again, that can send them back downstairs. Well, I just, right? We go back downstairs. You don't have to do that, okay? Just say what the emotion is, and that helps the child to know that you care and you want to hear. Don't go into the why. When the students want to go into the why, say, we're not doing the why. You're telling me what you're feeling, because I want to hear what you're feeling. You're setting a boundary. This is really important. If you go into the why, I can almost guarantee you that it's going to take you and the students off track. You have a lesson to do, and now you can't focus on any of those goals because you went into the why. Okay? I am not going into the why with my students, whether they are children or adults, because it takes too long. So don't do that. Don't do that, okay? Just say it, and I write it down while there's, okay, thank you. So a child says, why do you always feel, no, we're not doing that. We're asking why. And now when there's a time to go into the why, we go into the why. If your whole class is based on social emotional learning, then hey, you got a good time to do it. Okay, but if the whole class is not dedicated to that, you want to have a designated time where you just name the emotions, help kids to understand that during the lesson, learning happens up here. Okay, you can't learn down here. Your kids are going through a variety of issues at home, on the commute, at school. They're developing their sense of self. They have securities and insecurities. Okay, you don't learn when you are down here in the way that's going to be productive for you. Now, learning you may learn you're not good enough. You may learn I'm not smart enough. But that is really a reinforcement of a negative idea, of a hurtful idea. You can give it whatever adjective you want. I don't want to go into, does negative really exist if positive is not there? I don't want to do that. If the idea is hurting you, name it. Okay? It's a very damaging idea. When you say I'm stupid, I can't do it, I can't get right, that's very damaging. It's very hurtful to yourself. And you have to name it. Even if my voice sounds the way it sounds, I still have to be direct so people understand what I'm talking about. Okay? Like I said to my student, be careful about liking those emotions. Because if you like those emotions, you will attract people who also like those emotions, and you may not like what you get. Okay? Now, he's 11, so he can make of that what he will. Now, my message is going to be consistent. And so as we continue to speak, he'll know where I'm coming from. Because my message is consistent, it'll make sense over time. Okay? And because he's my student and we have conversations, it'll make sense over time. But everything doesn't have to make sense in that moment. Okay? There's so much that we want to give our students. And we want to find out the why. We want to know why. Okay? But you don't need to know why in that moment. Name it, identify it, and then you say, this is where we want you to be. And when difficulties come up, then you can get them back to center. That's what the next video is going to be about. Right now, we're naming the emotions. How do you do an emotions check-in before class? You have heard in the last 12 minutes how to do it. Have visuals. Name the emotion. Give them time to look at it. Don't rush them too much. Don't say you got 30 seconds. No, they may not know that there's all these. And there's more than this. Okay? There's more than this. And then when you're giving the wheel, if you have words like indifferent, zealous, fervorish, or fervish, I can't think of the word right now. Words like perplexed. Younger children may not know what those words mean, so you're spending more time defining the word versus helping them to identify their emotional state. The key is to give them words they understand. Don't try to give them these words like perplexed and indifferent before they know what they mean, because it's going to take more time in the moment. Now, when you're teaching what they mean, that's different. But when you want to know, have words they know. Save yourself time, okay? I bless you, and I want the best for you. Let me know how you do emotions check-ins in your classroom. Was this helpful for you? Would you try this? Okay? I look forward to seeing you again soon.